with all due respect to the general, I mean, he made Abrams tanks sound like, space shuttles, and that the Ukrainians would have a hard time maintaining them and operating them. And now he's talking about how formidable these Maginot Light lines. So I just, again, was curious if that was anybody discussed his post specifically. But that was, I found that very interesting.
Yeah, we have, and the Maginot Line again. It was built as a fortress, yes, but they didn't finish it. So if they'd have taken it right up to the end, it would have been helpful.
And the Germans went around it too, just like to your point.
Yeah, exactly. They just went around it. Where there's a will, there's a way. So, if they decide that they don't want to go through these particular defences, they don't actually have to. But in some places, I think they will breach them. We have Bearded, by the way, who might have something to comment on this. But go ahead, Spartan.
No, sorry, I was just concurring.
Bearded.
Hello and good morning, everybody. The sun is rising over Hawaii. So, Mark Hertling, obstacle crossings. Absolutely agree with him. One of the most difficult combined arms maneuver you can do, which just gets you to where you're going to go and do stuff. I think General Mark is expectation setting here. Those of us who've done this type of armored core ballet appreciate the complexity he's trying to pass on to people. Absolutely. Don't go through it, go around it. Path of least resistance, all that sort of stuff. But it's very difficult to explain, as we've tried to many times here, the number of moving parts that have to work just so in this type of operation. So I think take it for what it is. We're going to see a lot of interesting things beyond what we've already seen, and obstacle crossing and the like is just going to be another skill that Ukrainians just have to master to defeat the Russians.
Yeah, Bearded, thank you for that input. Right, and not trying to minimize it or anything. It seems like the general continues to underestimate the Ukrainians, which is a little bit vexing.
I think any commander worth his salt will always try and talk down capabilities and effects. It's all part of the mind game. The Ukrainians are confident. I'm sure everybody else is, but sometimes being overconfident can undo things. So steady as she goes, I think. Let the Ukrainians do what they do, and us pontificating lazy boy commanders can just shut up, I think.
Well, I'm absolutely certain the Ukrainians will have a plan, because they always do, don't they? It would seem that they're very good at drawing up plans. So apparently it's morning in Darwin. So good morning from Darwin as well. Apparently, according to Russian propaganda, who were pushing out the story of Zaluzhny's death, the same people are now putting out a video which is, I've got to say, Oscar-worthy. That wounded Ukrainian soldiers are being used as organ donors. And I've got to say, this video is pretty funny. It's it's one of those things that if you've seen, like, a bad movie, a really bad movie, you'll understand what I mean when I say it looks just like that. So awesome stuff. I think we can safely say that that's not currently happening. I do love it when they talk such absolute rubbish. So I'm just catching up that there's been booms in Berislav today, and I want to just see if there's been any more information from that. And we're still obviously waiting for more information at the Avinkuz. So we've heard of a number of Russian places being going boom this morning, and another one of them is Krasnodar. 2 UAVs apparently hit a suspicious-looking building. Must have been very suspicious. There is still, unfortunately, more information coming out about the Dnipro attack and the villages of Donetsk. New York, yes, has also received a Fab 250 bomb this morning, damaging 3 apartment blocks, a nursery, a dispensary, a cinema hall, and a gym, because, you know, military targets. Just having a little check to see what else is going on. CNN is tracking Iran's shipping of weapons to Russia, and has published some information here about them going dark around Amirabad and Astrakhan. Yeah, Astrakhan ports. So the very fact that they're getting this information out, I think, is important. It's important to remember that this is going on and to highlight it. Now, I'm just having a look what Russian servicemen are doing here. They have taken control of Novopetrikivka. Try saying that one after having a drink. In the Donetsk region, and have arrived to carry out what they're calling counter-sabotage duties. However, what they're really doing is searching people's homes and confiscating their mobile phones and stealing their cars. So they've turned up to do some counter-sabotage and are just basically committing robbery. I know, it's shocking stuff. I have a bit of information from the National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine. They have uncovered evidence of unjustified assets owned by Kyiv officials. An analysis of the former head of the Kyiv District Administration's declaration revealed that his wife owned, I've got a list, 2 non-residential properties worth more than 2.5 million, as well as a luxury Mercedes-Benz. And apparently the declaration claimed that the money to purchase these assets was earned between 2020 and 2021, but the data from their income shows they would not have had the funds to do so. The wife of the head of the Riverport Police Department also had unexpected wealth, which the declarant claiming was given to her by his millionaire grandmother. However, the monitoring of the official's lifestyle showed that the grandmother was not a millionaire. All these collective materials have been sent to anti-corruption prosecutors. It's amazing what they're doing. Even now, the anti-corruption investigations carry on, and nobody is safe. They're even investigating a number of donations made to the Servant of the People Party, because if something is corrupt, it needs to be stopped. And so, yeah, they're investigating everybody, and it's absolutely right that they do so. Hello, Axel. I see you have joined me. Are we? We're very close to our interview. And apparently that was enough for him to disappear. So maybe he's having some audio issues. Fair enough. He just disappeared on me. Is it something I've said today? You never know. What else have I got to tell you? Oh, Ukraine's Elena Svitolina. Elena Svitolina. Okay. She is about to begin her first semi-final in the WTA tour. So it's tennis, isn't it? And that will be at the International de Strasbourg. So you'll be no doubt all on tenterhooks, waiting to see whether she wins or not. Think she's had a lot of support recently. Ryan, hello.
While we're waiting for Ryan, let's do a quick audio check. That seems to function.
Good morning.
So we're right on time, and it is 7 p.m. Kiev time, and I can see Alexander already requesting, so we will be getting on with it right away.
Excellent, my friend.
And with a bit of luck, we will be having our colleague David Brookfield joining as well. Alexander, you seem to be connecting. That seems like good evening. How are you?
Hello. I'm good. Do you hear me well?
555, loud and clear. Glad to have you with us. Thank you very much for making time in your busy days, and I hope that we can speak a little bit about what you do and how Ukraine will perform economically.
Well, thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for having me. Well, obviously, Ukraine is cracking on, as you see, in the resilience that we demonstrate not only in the battlefield but also on the economic front. I personally find amazing, and the fact that the budget is currently financed to 50-50, 50% is coming from the taxes and 50 is coming from the macro financial technical aid, is a symbol that Ukrainian enterprises are the same warriors as the guys who are defending the country and the whole democracy, on the battlefront, on the cutting edge of this enormously ridiculous conflict, as I see it. So just to give you a little bit of a perspective, like what are we busy with? We are essentially facing a huge challenge of attracting investments to Ukraine. And am I still on? Do you hear me well?
Absolutely fine. I was
Okay,
just giving you the time
perfect.
to give a starting round.
Yeah. I'm just new to this format. That's why I'm asking. So I'm not always confident everything is working well. So you just feel free to stop me whenever you think you need to ask questions or something. So yeah, basically we're working on the attraction of the investments, and this is not an easy job. It's a huge challenge. First of all, it was not easy before the war with all the chronic pains that Ukraine used to have, but I can assure you, we're tackling them on the broad scale, and our anti-corruption system is like working pretty well. All the vertical is there, and we're demonstrating the transparency and those anti-corruption efforts. We are doing the massive deregulation for the business, which is also really important. Eliminating those replicating permits, licenses dating back from the Soviet Union, and we are creating tax incentives for the investors, encouraging them to come to Ukraine. We have a number of incentives for industrial parks whatsoever, and They are not only offering the turnkey solutions with the industry sites, but also the ability to get up to 30% of your capex compensated. We're actively working on the war risk insurance, which is like extremely topical issue at the moment. And since we understand, when we are encouraging the companies to come to Ukraine, they tell us like, why shall we do this now? Because the war is still ongoing. But we understand that the decision to go with investment to some other country and new country is always time and effort consuming. And when we talk about the country in war, it's sometimes is a raising of an eyebrow, for some of the people. But our encouragement is that you need to spend some time. You don't need to dedicate some time for due diligence and audits and feasibility studies, and this essentially gives an opportunity for those companies who do this now. They're going to be the first to take advantage, to take the benefits. We also do some work from the government side in order to promote and stimulate and help the investors. We've created basically under the initiative of the president, an NGO called Advantage Ukraine was created. It first started as a marketing campaign. We kicked it off with ringing the bell on the opening of the New York Stock Exchange in September, and that sort of like triggered the massive information campaign all over the world. And then we ended up with compiling the team of professionals, investment bankers, private equity guys, big four professionals that are currently busy with saving efforts for those investors who are considering to come to Ukraine. They are pre-selecting the feasible projects. They are doing this homework, and teaching Ukrainian entrepreneurs how they need to transform and adapt to the new rules, to the new paradigm of the global economic and financial capital market society. They need to be transparent. They need to have international financial reporting standards. They need to have clear legal structures. So we do all that. We teach them how to transform, and this is obviously saving efforts for the potential investors and the JV partners, because Ukraine is an enormous opportunity. I mean, it's like we're the huge market per se ourselves. We have enormous plans how to transform the country. We can be the powerhouse for Europe with renewable energy. We're a very efficient agri producer, and we see the huge room for agricultural processing. We have enormous mineral resources that are sitting and waiting for some of the investors to come. And we don't want to just like build the resource economy. We want to build the economy with added value, and therefore we think we have enormous opportunities there. And with the whole turnkey solution, with the government support, with industrial parks, with war risk insurance, with the financing that is currently available from international finance institutions like IFC, EBRD, EIB, and now we're gradually going to see commercial banks unwrapping. Number of export credit agencies or specialized funds from other countries all over the world are opening new financing programs. Like today, for instance, I'm currently in Copenhagen in Denmark, where the announcement of the new investment fund was made for the Danish companies who are willing to come to Ukraine. Ukrainian buyers, Ukrainian importers will be getting concessional financing to buy those products, and this is just one of the stories, and there are more stories like this. And
Can I just interject there,
Yeah,
Alexander? This is a very good
definitely,
point. And
definitely,
thank
yeah.
thank you very much for kindly, spanning the arc. When I spoke to Victoria earlier, when we spoke about the interview, I thought that we'll do exactly that, do a grand tour of the exceptional capacity and opportunity vested in Ukraine. We've been describing this here on our program since 15 months, actually a little bit over 15 months, since the 23rd of February last year, unfortunately, since the beginning of the full-fledged invasion. And we've always been highlighting the opportunity which is vested in a Ukraine unleashed from Russian suppression. A large amount of your import-exports prior to the invasion were still with Russia. Most of it petrochemical products, there was a lot of minerals going back and forth. And of course, this distorted the balance. But in recent years prior, the trade with the EU had already significantly increased. Both your biggest trade partners, Poland and Germany, were quite comprehensively integrating with you. Obviously, you imported cars and whatnot, all that kind of jazz. You know this better than anyone. But the key aspect was that Ukraine had already oriented itself towards the West. Ukraine had embraced the digitization, which we, and I'm based in Tallinn in Estonia, so not far away from you at the other end of the Baltic Sea at the moment. And here in Estonia, we've always looked at Ukraine as a unique opportunity to, again, harness the benefits of digitization and transform it into industry. And because Ukraine has this magnificent basis for it, how do you think, because we touched upon a couple of things you said about export credit agencies and would like to drill into this, and the specific also the war insurance, if you have a minute after, but how do you think can the industrial base of Ukraine, which to an extent in the East has been destroyed, where many workers may be harmed now and people have to find a way back after the war into it, how do you think the industrial base of Ukraine can be transformed in that way? Because you have the know-how in terms of process technology. You will probably have to import a lot of it as well. But at the same time, you have a willing, hardworking population. And one has to say this, in Bulgaria, the average minimum wage is $363, and in Ukraine, the average income or the average salary declared is about $680. So by comparison, you have a cost advantage for some time, and you have a unique resource advantage that should give Ukraine all the power. What will you rather, as Alexander Kamishin once said, will you rather build new, or will you rebuild some of the assets? If you look, for example, at Azovstal or other facilities which have been destroyed, how do you see this?
We would rather build new. That's how we see this in the government, because this war, as every conflict and every challenge, are actually triggering new opportunities for us. And like for instance, once we focus on the completely new model of the economy with ESG principles, with more green component in the economy, because we have this opportunity now. Whatever was damaged and ruined in the East was extremely energy inefficient, and extremely governance inefficient, because that was inherited from the Soviet Union, which is not the perfect uh, state model, right? And so we some of the businessmen were just like the parasites, sitting on those assets, soaking out all of the juices out of those, but not reinvesting, not creating any adding value. But now this is gone. I mean, this may sound cynical, but this war is also giving us a second chance. It's giving us a chance to finally do something we probably missed at the early 90s. And we want to build new. In terms of like your example with Azovstal, like I would rather go for the green metallurgy with DRI and SBI facilities, with hydrogen driven technologies, with green fertilizers, because that matches and fits into the strategy of Europe with the Green Deal and green transition. Why not us? I mean, we have huge territories. Even if we dedicate land for dozens of gigawatts of renewables and wind and solar, it's going to be barely 1% of the agricultural land that we maintain, right? So, and why don't we use this opportunity?
And you still have functioning, say, nuclear power facilities, which give you baseload capacity at decent rates. So you have both the advantage of transitioning and therefore sponsoring exactly that transformation you highlight. I'm completely with you in this regard, because evidently building new, this is the same thing, which, for example, under the Marshall Plan, and you just highlighted what the Danes are doing, which is no different in that regard. It's essentially the same situation. Countries such as Germany, luckily, faced under the Marshall Plan that they could rebuild completely new. Otherwise, the facilities you see today in Böblingen and Sindelfingen of the car production would never have come to be. Otherwise, the say, tool manufacturing in Baden-Württemberg or in the state of Hesse or North Rhine-Westphalia would not have happened. So these transitions happen due to extraordinary events, and the capital destruction you have suffered is obviously terrible, but at the same time, it creates a free path. Now, you spoke about the war insurance. I like this topic a lot. Have you thought about, or have you considered using proceeds which are now coming from the EU, not only to support your defense, but also building up resources in future of seized Russian assets to create, say, a collateral pool for that war insurance? Or is this a supranational backbone which you're looking at, or is it both?
Well, it's actually both, and we would love to get access to those assets that are frozen but not seized yet, and we might get disappointed to some extent that some of the policies some of the countries might have when they don't give us an access to those assets, but rather kind of guide us and say, okay, you go collect some proceeds from them, but which leaves the room for the Russians to gain back the control of those assets in the future. So we want to see more, if I may, radical decisions from our partners on this issue, especially taking that the assets of the individuals that are normally some luxury items, they're not so easy to maintain. And what the heck? I mean, the European taxpayers need to pay for the maintenance of the yachts and villas that cannot be given to Ukraine to compensate their losses. I mean, I don't see the huge point in that. So there should be more decisive action as I see this, and we would see this. This is a big basis in for the recovery. You probably know that the recent RDNA report by World Bank summarized at least 400 billion of damages that were provoked by the Russian aggression, and this is
based
not
on
the
very
end.
conservative estimates, isn't it?
And this is not the end, yes. So I think that the real figure is more closer to 1 trillion, and we will not be able to manage this amount with only public and concession finance. So obviously, the private sector should be engaged to the maximum extent, but those assets that could be seized could serve as a good basis for that. So, but again, as I said, we want a little more decision making on this one.
Yeah. So who then currently, or if you can talk about it, of course, only, but who then would you see as the forefront for that war insurance program? Because I do agree there's a number of people who would probably move very swiftly into building new industrial facilities, more capital intensive, more energy efficient, and offering good opportunities. I could even see one of your major previous pre-war dependencies in the pharmaceuticals industry to move across to an extent to Ukraine, if you could motivate investors such as Bayer or Roche or the likes to go and do it in Ukraine. But they would obviously need to have some kind of assurance to even say tiptoe into this. Where would you go with this? Is this something where you hope more for the ECA front, the export credit agencies to support you, or is it something where a pool of countries could contribute to that collateral pool?
Well, here we have a number of initiatives that are already ongoing. Like we have IFIs and DFIs that are pretty active. They still need to, because this is all new to them, and the pilot projects should be fostered, and Well, this is an ongoing process, and I think we'll see some first results fairly soon. We have MIGA, Multilateral Investment Guarantee Agency, which is part of the World Bank Group. They have a policy. They were not ready to insure Ukrainian investors, which was a little bit of a pain for us. But now we see that they're changing their policy, and hopefully they're gonna make a public announcement on the London Ukraine Recovery Conference on that. We have DFC from US, Development Finance Corporation, that is actually waived the requirement that only US companies can be insured. So they are considering the insurance for even for Ukrainian investors and for investors from elsewhere. Their overall exposure for Ukraine is $1 billion right now. It covers numerous instruments, including direct lending and the credit risk coverage, but they want to at least kind of off the record discussions that only a political risk, this war risk insurance product should get up one day to $1 billion. We see the huge potential for the private reinsurance market. The companies like Swiss Re, Munich Re, Lloyd's, Aon, who are currently in the sleeping mode. But there is an initiative from EBRD to set up a special trust
Yes, they don't.
account.
They don't like the first loss.
Exactly. So that's why the concessional and public capital should be used for this first loss layer in order for them to then go and apply their own multiples and come up with their own liquidity and guarantee capital. And we see some moves in this direction. We hopefully will, as I said, EBRD is piloting this initiative, and they hopefully going to finish it pretty soon. And we'll try to unblock this process, because we will not get it done without the private sector, as I mentioned. So that's how we see this landscape for the insurance. Another private sector initiative that we see big potential in is our cooperation with BlackRock, where we're setting up the Ukrainian Development Fund. The concept is already there, and we're getting to the implementation stage pretty soon. The way it's going to work is the fund's going to serve as the minority equity anchor partner, doing all the feasibility with BlackRock as an asset manager. This will be a symbol and a good sign for all the other members of the ecosystem to join. And this will potentially be the best use of the public funds, because the overall multiple that will be triggered with all the other guys from the capital market ecosystem to be engaged can be X5 or even X10. So, and then we put a big trust and hope for that instrument as well.
Yeah, and speed of deployment of capital. I mean, you were just highlighting this, and I think everybody here in the audience can sense it as well, that speed of deployment is of the essence. There's good studies in this regard that sometimes the perfection being at the enemy of the good, as in if you deploy slowly because you check every little nook and cranny, you end up with more deferral losses than you would have as an opportunity cost if something goes wrong in between.
You're absolutely right. Yeah. This is essential. Yeah. But again, we need to do the homework back at home as well, and we're doing this. As you see, we're running numerous initiatives, and we want to be creative in those ones, because the world has changed. I mean, it's like there's nothing like there's no world like we used to know 1 or 2 years ago. Take a look at